Jonathan Kay, and I'm from Toronto, Canada. And I started as a jazz musician. I'm still a jazz musician. But I seriously studied jazz. I am from a musical family, so I learned jazz from my uncle, who's a famous trombone player. And I've always been around a lot of Toronto's great studio and Western jazz musicians. I went to Humber College, which is a renowned school for jazz music, and I studied with Pat LaBarbera, who's, after John Coltrane, was considered one of the top saxophone players to continue on his lineage. And as a jazz musician, understanding the music of jazz, the tradition, I got to the natural place where you're looking to assimilate different types of music, because that's always been an important part of the jazz mentality, the consciousness of what a jazz musician is. The jazz tradition up until now is still very young, and just like our country, our culture, the Western culture, is very young compared to the Indian, the older world, even European culture. And jazz has always been a music of assimilation, of taking things and putting them inside and then it coming out through the individual in that moment. So the traditional rules don't necessarily bind the music in the way that other classical forms of music require. So jazz has changed a lot over the course of its existence from as early as the 20s. So as a young searching, exploring jazz musician, I came across Ravi Shankarji, Ali Akbar Khan Sahib, and at the same time, because of my teacher, I guess you could say the guru figure in my Western musical training was John Coltrane. And I was exploring his music in the later part of his life and finding a deep resonance in his sound and his approach to music. And he was one of the first to really explore modal music, which you could say as drone-based music. Like in Indian music, you have the drone and you have your collection of notes. Even in a rag like Bhairavi, which has all potential 12 notes, they're used in a very systematic way. They're used as coloring in a certain aspect, a certain way of moving. And in Western jazz, you have that drone, but you can create tension and release through lots of different techniques that are all derived from harmony. But when you take the harmony out, it creates a different effect as well, when you don't have an instrument playing a piano or a guitar. And this is what was really fascinating me. And at the same time, because I was becoming more and more influenced by John Coltrane, not only his music, but you learn also that it's the man, is himself, the energy that he put out into the world through his music. And as I learned more about him, I found a lot of things that were resonating within me. He had a spiritual awakening where he was able to leave his addictions behind, alcohol and drugs. He actually started reading a lot of Indian spirituality and philosophy, Ramakrishna, Katamrita, Shivananda, Swami Shivananda. And he started looking to India as a guiding inspiration behind his life. And naturally his music came with him as well. And so as I've learned more about Indian classical music, Indian traditions here, folk music, I've seen a lot of things now that I didn't see at first. That you can tell Coltrane was very much influenced by the Indian culture. And so that had a great effect on me. And so my brother, Andrew, and our best friend, Justin Gray, we were all living together and we said, let's come to India. One day we just said, let's just come to India. And we were young, and we had nothing to lose. We had maybe the means to get here, and that's about it. And it was just as simple as saying we have to experience India. So our first trip we came here, we came to Calcutta. We had actually called SRA, and they had recommended as our teacher Shantanu Bhattacharya, who is now our guru of my guru of 7 years. And we came here for 2 weeks of lessons. And in those 2 weeks, we got maybe about 10 lessons of really the basics, you know, starting with the vocal basics, and then applying it on the saxophone. My brother and I play saxophone, and our friend Justin plays the fretted, at that point, the fretted bass. So we returned home with a lifetime of inspiration and some new musical concepts, rhythm ideas, lots of new modes, different thoughts to compose music and explore through our jazz background, through the chromaticism, through harmony, and through pure modality as well. And that lasted for about a year until we said, okay, well, we need to experience more of this. And we actually organized a whole music festival, the Toronto Indo Jazz Festival, which was, like its name suggests, Indo Jazz. We were trying to promote the concept of Indian influenced music and jazz coming together. We brought our Guruji to Canada for the first time. And that was the beginning of something that's continued ever since, the Toronto Indo Jazz Festival. So when we're at home, we're trying to promote this type of music as well, and share that with the community at home, and share other artists that are doing this as well. So we said, again, the three of us, my brother and Andrew, said, well, we need to go back to Calcutta, we need to experience more, we need to just go deeper, because in 2 weeks you're getting such a surface level, and we had gone through some of those, all those lessons. But when I came back to Calcutta, it was in January, and we saw a concert by our Guruji.
January which year?
This is 6 years ago.
Okay.
2008, I think it was actually, technically. So we saw our Guruji perform a concert, and then we saw Tejendra Majumdar perform with Shubhankar Banerjee. These were 2 days back to back, and in both of those concerts, they went right to the heart, right to the soul of what music really can express, the power that it can have. And both of those concerts changed my whole perception on what an artist can accomplish playing music. It was so moving. Musically, everything was unbelievable. Spiritually, emotionally, it was just coming. It was hitting me so hard. And that's when I decided, whatever these raga music maestros, these musicians who study and learn Indian raga music, whatever they're tapping into, they're touching when they perform, I'd like to know that. I'd like to be able to do that. And that's when I decided very seriously to try to do my best to play the ragas in their most traditional way on the saxophone. So that's one side that I'm taking very seriously right now, because I've been here for the last 3 years. I haven't really gone home too much because I consider myself a full-time student. I have done the odd jazz gig here. I've done the odd fusion concert, at times more than I wanted to as well. But I'm trying to do my best to stay immersed in the sadhana of Indian raga music. And that's where my heart lies right now, is trying to get this deep tradition, the instrumental and the gaiki style, into the saxophone for the first time. Because there's a lot of, Kadri Gopalnath plays Carnatic music on the saxophone, and he's a great inspiration. Very different way of approaching the instrument, very different style of music. The Hindustani classical music, it presents a lot of huge challenges that the saxophone is, it's not inherent to the saxophone. Something that can be expressed a lot more easily on a bansuri or a dilruba, I'd say. But that's why I've decided to be here for a long time. And even though I have such a deep love for Western music, for jazz, and for the artistic journey of fusing music together, which goes on as well at times, but trying to stay immersed in the talim and the riyas of the ragas is